Trade reports are intensifying very, very fast for the Montreal Canadiens as we have a brand new report indicating Montreal has checked in on one of, if not the top right D trade target this offseason from Calgary. We got more on the Rasmus Anderson front. We got to dive into the report, what it looks like and what the contract looks like and what it indicates for Montreal moving forward. But it's not just that. Pierre Lebrun did give some more insight as to the Habs' plans on draft night, and we were all thinking, all signs pointed towards one thing, the Habs picking at those picks, but Pierre's recent report sheds a little bit of doubt on that. We got to dive into all this stuff coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And yes, I'm in my car, I'm moving, I'm waiting for the ferry back to Newfoundland. But guess what? We still pump out these videos because we got stuff here to talk about. And we don't take breaks here. So we got Pierre Lebrun. Montreal, with its 2 first-round picks, is trying to find a partner who would be interested in a picks/prospects package for a forward upgrade. Now, you might look at this and you might say, well, this is nothing new. Not necessarily. We knew that Kent Hughes, Jeff Gorton, this is something they've wanted to do. We want to upgrade. We have the draft capital. Look, if I just show you guys the picks, yeah, we have a lot of draft picks, but we've been talking a bunch of seconds, bunch of thirds, bunch of fourths. Yeah, we could leverage those, but just recently we were talking about how, from Eric Engel's article, saying, look, it's unlikely that Montreal is going to be able to do this, but I think if Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton really want to make this happen, this is something that they could genuinely do. And if I dive into I guess I have the defense line up here, but I was going to dive into the forward lines. Like, Montreal has some young players that we could ship off. And even on defense, guys like Struble, and I know I want to keep Xhekaj around, but Struble, even some of the guys not on the team like Engstrom, like a Reinbacher, still not impossible to trade them, maybe more likely Logan Mailloux. We have the picks and we have the draft capital, or the draft capital and the players to make a deal like this happen, because there are a lot of teams trying to get out of, as Arpen Basu funnily called it, the mushy middle, which I think is just a great way to put it, right? Where all these teams are trying to fight to get better. There are multiple other teams with first-round picks that they're willing to give up. And look, recently at The Athletic, we're talking about there's a million different guys. Like, after picks, say, 8, 9, or 10, it's kind of a crapshoot. Like, we don't know who's going where. And Corey Proman said, look, if you're the Habs, you want some riskier guys like Cole Reshny, Jack Nesbitt, Lyndon Lakovic, Sacha Boumedienne, but safer guys like Braden Coots, Carter Bear, a guy we've talked about a lot. I think in the most recent mock draft from Scott Wheeler, he had us picking Cameron Reed. A lot of us love Justin Carbonneau, even a right D like Logan Hensler out of, I believe, Michigan State. So the fact that Montreal is looking at this and there's so many different options, you know other teams are going to want to get their picks so they can pick their guy. That's always what you want to do, right? I mean, if we're talking about a draft night trade and you're looking at all the guys that are available, and you're looking at Montreal who has 16 and 17, teams are not sure if the guy that they want, let's say you're picking around 20, you don't know if the guy you want is going to be there at 20 or if he's going to be gone at 12. That's one of the crazy uncertainties with this year's draft. So when we hear Pierre Lebrun saying this, you do have to imagine that there's a lot of teams willing to move up. We've seen guys climb and climb and climb recently since the end of the season, like Brady Martin, once thought to go maybe even after pick 10, is now slotted to potentially go top 5 if Utah keeps their pick, right? So there's a lot of different guys shooting up the draft, falling down the draft, and especially on draft night, when teams are seeing where these guys are going, Montreal is going to be in a prime position to leverage those picks to another team who maybe wants to get a bit younger. Now, specific ideas for guys like that, I don't necessarily know at this point because, we know the Islanders, they have number 1, they're looking to trade up again to maybe get 7 to try and get Hagens. There's some stuff going on there, but we don't think they're trading Horvat anymore. At least Matthew Darche certainly didn't make it seem like it. So, but there are other teams out there, and I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think could fall into that category of making a trade with Montreal for 16 and 17 to try and bolster our talent? It's a really interesting time of year, but again, that's not it, right? We're talking about defense. We're talking about defense, man. And on defense, again, I'm not going to reiterate, we need a right D. We all know that. Simple, plain and simple. But a guy we've talked about for ages now is Rasmus Anderson, because he has just been a fit since trade deadline this year. We were talking about maybe bringing him in, but that was around the time we also thought David Savard would get shipped out. So we were kind of seeing Anderson as a pseudo David Savard replacement for at least the end of this season as we tried to push for the playoffs and for one season after that. But David Savard stuck around. Ken Hughes rewarded our team. We kept our decor intact, didn't trade anyone. But now Rasmus Anderson is looking for a change of scenery, and he's making a absolute steal, $4.55 million right now. And look, if I just dive into some of the reports recently, one from Elliot Friedman saying, the feeling across the league is that the talented defenseman, the Rasmus Anderson, is ready for something new. I believe the Flames are willing, but only when they get what they want. There's significant interest, which helps. And then one anonymous source from rg.org, and I'll link the article down below so you can go read it. As always, go check out the article. It's great as well. The Flames are definitely listening and exploring their options, the source said. I'm hearing the Blue Jackets, Red Wings, Canadiens, and Bruins have all looked in to Anderson. And for good reason, right? I mean, again, we look at these stats. He's just a couple seasons removed from a 50-point, then 49-point season. He still tied his career high in goals this year with 11 goals in 81 games. His offensive upside is very good. He's a very solid playmaker. And again, we don't know what we're doing with Mike Matheson for the long-term future. So, who knows? Maybe a Mike Matheson ends up getting moved, and so Anderson can quarterback the PP2, whatever. But regardless, a year of Rasmus Anderson, to me, is a perfect David Savard replacement, especially where it's always so hard to get good right D, right? There's like Aaron Ekblad, who's a free agent, but is he really the best idea? Noah Dobson, but he's going to be too expensive. Like, there's not that many great right D targets. Plus, we still have a guy like Reinbacher, who honestly could be ready for the NHL this upcoming season, but it might take him a little while longer to crack this D core. And a guy like Anderson, if the price is right, now again, it's going to be fairly expensive because for his production and what he brings, 6'1", he can play a bit more of a physical game. He had a bad plus-minus this year, but the Calgary team was a bit dysfunctional, at least at times. They really started to bounce back later in the year as they made that push for the playoffs, but $4.5 million for his production and what he adds to a team is extremely valuable. So if we're talking about what we need to trade for him, like imagine maybe he went around the trade deadline, right? And if he were to go around the trade deadline, you'd probably have teams shipping him out for a first. So maybe we'd have to part ways with one of our firsts for 1 year of Rasmus Anderson. And in a vacuum, that kind of seems tough, especially when we look at the Habs draft history around 16, Cayden, Guhle. I think Caufield was 15, right? There's guys like that, but honestly, for a Savard replacement, to keep this team in that competitive window, provided that Reinbacher is not ready to take on that kind of role, at least in terms of impact that Savard did. Because remember, he was a great penalty killer all season long as well. So to bring in a guy who has that veteran presence and impact, to me, is a very good idea. And I'm very glad we're checking in on it. Do I think Montreal will be the actual team to make the move for Rasmus Anderson? I think other teams will bid more who are maybe more in their competitive window. Again, at $4.5 million, he's very easy to fit in under the cap, and he's a very talented player. But I wouldn't put it past Kent Hughes to actually make a move for him. Because again, I feel like it allows you time to not rush your young prospects, but also to put pressure on them, right? Like, listen, you want to crack the lineup this year? You now got to get through Rasmus Anderson. And again, I think he'd have another big-time stabilizing effect. Like when we brought in Alexander Carrier for Justin Barron, it was noticeable immediately. Not just because of, his numbers, because he put up great numbers at the start, started to trail off, but he was just impactful. He rarely made mistakes. And while Anderson does make some mistakes, he is impactful. And adding stability all through the D-core so every pairing doesn't have a weakness is something that would really benefit Montreal, a team that gave up a ton of goals last year, a really bad plus-minus. I think it was -23, but we made the playoffs. So to me, this is something that Kent Hughes should absolutely consider. He is considering. Whether he ends up being the one to pull the trigger, I don't know, but I think we should definitely keep an eye out. But let me know what you guys think about Rasmus Anderson, as the reports are picking up every single day, and I just can't wait for a move to be made. But that'll do it for this car episode of Habs Digest. Listen, if you made it through this video and you put up with this, like even in the car, this is crazy. Thank you so much for tuning in every single day. We don't take breaks here at Habs Digest, and really appreciate every single one of you coming back every single day. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.